Today, we'll be talking about impediments to problem solving. Objectives. We will focus on the impediments to problem solving and other barriers to problem solving. Did you have not slept for few days thinking of something, a problem, and not finding a solution to it, or mulling over the problem and yet not finding a solution? What do you think? Why is that you are not finding a way out? Why is that you are not getting sleep? You must have observed a teacher struggling to make a child understand about a topic from a subject, or yelling at a child as why he or she is not understanding a problem. If I were given 1 hour to save the planet, I would spend 59 minutes defining the problem and 1 minute resolving it, said by Albert Einstein. In our daily life, we tend to see many problems since one is born. The child tends to face many difficulties in their growing stages. The developmental process allows an individual to face many challenges, and these challenges are much difficult for few and easier for few to take up. In every stage, they would be making many errors in being successful, yet they also fail many times as they would not find solution for the task that they or the surroundings has defined. Problems and mistakes are not easy to accept, and we clearly understand that there is something wrong. Instead of acknowledge its presence, we ignore the facts and might delay the problems, leading to ambiguity. There might be many ways to stop all the unpleasant and stressful situations which prevent us directly from achieving what we want to achieve. This requires a great amount of time and skills for an effective and timely solution. Problems are big as well as small, and it is not a task for leaders or the manager alone who apply their knowledge and solve issues. Problems are very common to everyone, and each of them have to face different kinds of problems and find solutions for their peaceful living. Apparently, problems are inevitable and are inconsistent in their standards between expectations and reality. The uniqueness of every different issue makes the need for an also adapted and individualized solution. These individualized solutions are very complicated or awkward and also risky sometimes, which might be the reasons why many fail, struggle, or accept to find a solution to their problems. There are many reasons why it is difficult to find a solution to a problem, and they are called as impediments to problem solving. Let us understand impediments to problem solving. We tend to use different skills at different stages of problem solving and face some hurdles due to which we might get stuck at the point and fail to reach our goals as expected. This may be because of few barriers that might block our way and would not allow us to proceed further, to use our creativity and help us analyze the situations for an effective problem solving. Few reasons for failing to find an effective solution. First one, lack of commitment, not being logical, misjudging the problem, lack of appropriate knowledge, insufficient or inaccurate information, inability to synthesize analytical and creative thinking. A problem solving barrier is something that stops people finding a successful solution to the problem. These barriers are often caused by cognitive blocks, how we think and feel, as well as by practical, social and physical blocks. Everybody has cognitive block, and each person will have different types at different intensities. This will influence which barriers we encounter. It is important that people are aware of the range of barriers and that they have on problem solving. In this way, the barriers can be overcome. There are numerous obstacles to solving a problem. Generally, These obstacles are mental constructs that impede the ability to correctly solve problems. Some barriers do not prevent us from finding a solution, but do prevent us from finding the most efficient solution. Four of the most common processes and factors are mental set, functional fixedness, unnecessary constraints, and irrelevant information. Cognitive blocks are our ways of thinking and feeling. We contribute to how we approach and carry out problem solving, leading to barriers. They usually introduce bias, errors, and results in imperfect solutions. These barriers can be removed by awareness of pitfalls in problem solving and training in how to use a problem solving method correctly. Other barriers to problem solving are perceptual blocks, emotional blocks, intellectual blocks, environmental blocks, cultural blocks. Perceptual blocks. When an individual has a difficulty in noticeably perceiving or understanding the information in order to solve the problem is called as perceptual block. Perceptual blocks exist when we are unable to clearly perceive a problem or the information needed to solve it effectively. It can be due to the tendency of seeing what is expected to see. It can also happen with a preconceived notion to understand the true nature of the problem by excluding the irrelevant information or by adding information through assumptions. Stereotyping can be one of the other reasons, as it will leave the block in an individual by strongly believing that the other do not have a tendency or capacity to achieve, behave, or solve the problem and label the individual with various taglines rather than addressing the main problem. Sometimes problems go unnoticed, ignored, and also compromised at initial stages until it becomes very severe and requires immediate action. They are treated in emergency, and sometimes the trials made at that stage can be very futile. In addition, problems are seen with different perspective in different situations, limitedly and not holistically. They are not completely understood, and only parts of the problems are solved which has a tendency to recur again, leaving the problem in more critical conditions. And whenever there is a difficulty in identifying the relationship between the cause and the effect of the problem, it would be not easy to find a solution. Emotional blocks. When a person observes a threat to their emotional needs, the emotional block takes place, which vary from person to person and their ability to deal with the problem in finding a solution. The thinking ability will be hindered due to the emotional block and will not allow the person to think beyond the mental set, affecting their identity, achievement, self-esteem. Fear of making mistakes or looking foolish. Traditionally, we laugh at people when they fall or make simple mistakes. In fact, ridicule is seen as one of the most common behavior till date in a classroom by teachers when a child fumbles while reading or when they do something abrupt. This leaves an impact on the child, leading to fear in dealing with the problem like reading or asking a doubt in the classroom, thinking if he or she would get laughed or taunt by others when they make a mistake and thus get scared of responding to the teacher. All the students who are not successful in math are because of a strict teacher who ridiculed them at some point of time in schooling. Similarly, with those who are more senior, we imagine that we will be thought inexperienced or immature. With those more junior, we want to protect our image as being knowledgeable and experienced. Impatience. Being impatient to solve a problem may be due either to a desire to succeed quickly or to end the discomfort or loss caused by the problem. This has two major consequences. We tend to grab the first solution which comes along without adequate analysis of the problem, and we evaluate ideas too fast, almost instinctively rejecting unusual ideas. Either way, our solution is unlikely to be the most effective available. Escaping anxiety. A very commonly seen block where some of us are more susceptible to anxiety and find it very unpleasant. It can be because of factors such as high risk, ambiguity, stress, insecurity, etc. The effects on problem solving includes avoiding risks, indecisions in situations which are not black and white, believing others' judgments, and avoiding challenging situations. This will also not allow the individual to take any kind of risk and will lead to overconfidence to avoid unpleasant activities and would like to be in their comfort zone. Need for order. This is related to avoiding anxiety. It can lead to an inability to cope up with the frustration of situations which are not clear cut or where ambiguities exist. Lack of challenge. This may be a result of when the problem is routine or the benefits losses are not substantial to us either while tackling the problem or to get the easiest route to solution. Intellectual blocks. Intellectual blocks exist when we don't have the necessary thinking skills to find a successful solution or are unable to use them effectively. They include lack of knowledge or skill in the problem solving process. The most common blocks seen in the intellectuality are inadequate skills in analytical and creative thinking and inflexible strategy using one approach for every type of problem. The inability to use the various problem solving techniques leading to ineffective solutions. Lack of creative thinking. This is always caused by an inability to use the skills rather than their absence, resulting from the dominance of analytical thinking in our day-to-day lives and a lack of practice. Inflexible thinking. This is difficulty in switching from one type of thinking skills to another, such as from analysis to idea generation or from verbal to visual thinking. Not being methodical. This is perhaps the most common block. A step-by-step approach is essential to solving problems effectively. Lack of knowledge or skill in using the language of the problem. If a problem involves a language that we cannot understand or cannot use, such as specialist jargons or statistical analysis, we will not be able to tackle the problem effectively. Similarly, we may use an inappropriate language such as trying to find an error in accounts by describing the situation verbally rather than analyzing it mathematically. Using inadequate information. This happens when we do not make sufficient effort to collect the relevant information or do not understand what information is relevant, where to find it or how it relates to the problem. Similarly, using inaccurate information can lead us to the wrong conclusions. Expressive blocks. Expressive blocks exist when we do not have the knowledge or skills necessary to communicate or record ideas in the ways required producing an effective solution. They are caused by an inability to use languages effectively, such as words, drawings, mathematics, scientific symbols, and so on. Using the wrong language. Some problems are more effectively solved or communicated using one language rather than another. Unfamiliarity with a particular application of a language. The most obvious example is the difficulty many people have making a speech, even though they can write their ideas effectively on paper. Inadequate explanations. These can result from a real lack of information about what you are trying to convey, or from assuming that your audience already has some of the information when they don't. A passive management style. A situation where we are reluctant to or find it difficult to exert influence may prevent us communicating our ideas effectively. This is particularly important when people need to be convinced of the validity of ideas. A dominant management style. This is when we exert oppressive control, either deliberately or unconsciously, and can make those we are communicating with automatically reluctant to accept what say or hostile to our ideas. Environmental blocks. Environmental blocks, which exist when the social or physical environment hinders our problem solving, include management style. The way in which we are managed can influence both our attitude to problem solving and the freedom we have to create and implement ideas. Distractions. Due to excessive noise and interruptions, these affect some people more than others. They have a detrimental effect on problem solving. Physical discomfort. This can create a distraction as well as resulting in stress or lethargy depending on the circumstances. Lack of support. This comes in many forms. For example, we may need specialist information, advice, skills, or other resources or authority to take action. A more pervasive aspect of this block is a lack of encouragement and the necessary organizational structure to support and exploit people's ideas. Stress. Stress due to pressure of work and deadlines affect most people differently. Lack of communication. This has a number of effects, including inability to get the information you require and a lack of encouragement. Monotonous work. This can dull enthusiasm for solving problems and put us onto automatic pilot, making us blind to problems when they occur. Expectations of others. These can influence both our general performance in problem solving and objectives we set ourselves. Cultural blocks. Cultural blocks result from our conditioning to accept what is expected or normal in a given situation. For example, when the work ethic says that we must be serious minded, but finding an effective solution requires some playful fantasies. Cultural blocks exist when our problem solving is hindrance by accepting that some things are good or right and are done, while others are bad or wrong and are not done, so that we become bounded by custom. They include unquestioning acceptance of the status quo. There is a tendency to conform to established ideas and methods of working and not to question them or express ideas which depart from them. If something is not normally done, we tend to look for the reasons why it cannot be done or why it would not work. Rather, that is looking for the reasons why it should be done or why it could work. Dislike of change. The attitude that tradition is preferable to change can arise from the need for security. If a situation is acceptable as it is, any change which must involve some uncertainty, it felt to be threatening by some people. However, as we become more and more accustomed to change, this block becomes less common, but there must be reasons for change. Change for change's sake can be dangerous. Fantasy and humor are not productive. There is still a widespread belief that fantasy and humor have no place in the serious business of problem solving. Subjective reports from innovators suggest otherwise. Fantasy and humor are connected by one common feature: the unlikely combination of ideas. Think about it next time you hear a good joke. The punchline is always unexpected. Innovative solutions to problems arise in the same way, by making a link between apparently unrelated ideas. Feelings, intuition, and subjective judgments are unreliable. There is a strong bias towards reason, logic, and quantitative judgments because they can be measured and communicated in accurate terms. Feelings, intuitions, and subjective judgments which cannot be measured or communicated are seen as unreliable and are mistrusted. Even in mathematics, one of the most logical of sciences, intuition is often reported as playing a key role in problem solving. A good problem solver needs to be able to use both objective, logical methods and subjective, intuitive methods in search for the solutions. Overemphasis on competition or cooperation. A strongly competitive environment for recognition, promotion, and so on can make people unwilling to listen to the ideas of those with whom they are competing. Similarly, in a strongly cooperative environment, we may avoid expressing new ideas because we don't want to stand out from the crowd. Taboos. Some actions and ideas are excluded from problem solving because they are regarded as distasteful or are harmful or contravene accepted moral codes. For example, in a test of creativity, a group of students were given a problem to solve using calculus. They had to follow certain rules, and the objective was to see who produced the largest number of different routes to the correct answer. A few students produced a lot more than the others because they chose to break the rules they were told to follow. Although eventually we may not decide to break a taboo, there is no harm in breaking them in thought. This can often lead to new perspectives on a problem. Let us summarize. The ability to solve problems is a basic life skill and is essential in our day-to-day lives, at home, at school, and at work. We solve problems every day without really thinking about how we solve them. Problem solving is a mental process that involves discovering, analyzing, and solving problems. The ultimate goal of problem solving is to overcome obstacles and find a solution that best resolves the issue. The best strategy for solving a problem depends largely on the unique situations. In some cases, people are better off learning everything they can about the issue and then using factual knowledge to come up with the solution. In other instances, creativity, insight are the best options. Common barriers to problem solving are cognitive blocks that impede the ability to correctly solve problems, which can be perceptual, emotional, intellectual, expressive, environmental, and cultural. Everybody has cognitive blocks, and each person will have different types and at different intensities. These barriers can be removed by awareness of the pitfalls in problem solving and training in how to use a problem solving method correctly.